When you watch this play in real time, it might just seem like a good defensive sequence where Minnesota doubles Jokic in the post aggressively, forces him into a bad pass, and that turns into a fast break with an open three-point shot and Rudy generating free throws after grabbing the offensive rebound. But let's look at this more closely. The possession before, notice that Cat is guarding Justin Holiday and Rudy is on Jokic. Eventually, Jokic remembers how much he likes the matchup with Rudy guarding him and is able to spot up with an opening after Reggie kicks it to him. Credit to Rudy for the good contest. But with the Wolves' two bigs hovering near the rim, Jokic is able to still snare the board and convert it into 2 free throws and a noggin rub to boot. It was during those free throws when Nuggets coach Mike Malone sends Aaron Gordon back in the game for Holiday. Cat knows this because Gordon is not only guarding him, but he gives him a nice little shove to get open. This turned into a slip by Conley, who doesn't look back quick enough to see the pass, tries to save it, steps out of bounds, but the ref doesn't see it and gives it back to the Timberwolves. After 2 Rudy free throws, Minnesota has plenty of time to get back and match up properly. By the time we first see Rudy on screen, he's picking up Gordon like he'd been doing the entire game. Here's the first play of the game. Rudy is out on the perimeter on the ball, but the reason this tends to work for Minnie is because he can hover around the basket and possibly thwart Jokic from backing in on Cat. Here he is again 2 minutes later picking Gordon up above the three-point line. And I know Gordon has his arm out, but Rudy clamps it and then throws his elbow out, leaving Scott Foster little choice but to call the foul. You might wonder why Gordon is bringing the ball up past half court to initiate the Nuggets' offense. In response to the Game 2 massacre, where the defense successfully harassed the shit out of Jamal Murray, Michael Malone adjusted, having Gordon bring it up more and more in Games 3 and 4, in order to spare Murray from the pressure and also to get Murray attacking out of different spots on the floor. And it has certainly helped if you compare his numbers from Games 1 and 2 to Games 3 and 4. For example, Gordon brings the ball up with Murray getting to the left elbow. Without having to deal with a ton of pressure, Murray can now pop out for the catch and initiate the two-man game with Jokic. I'm sure Cat is thinking, I can stick to Jokic because Rudy is somewhere back there protecting the rim. But Rudy starts from too far away because he's guarding a good shooter, and Murray lays it in easily over him. Why was Rudy on KCP and not on Gordon closer to the hoop? Well, because they screwed up the switch on the initial handoff. Conley and Rudy should have switched here in what would have been a very sound defensive play. How do I know they screwed it up? Because 2 possessions later, they do it properly. In response to Gordon bringing the ball up so much, they thought they could pressure him with a smaller Conley, but then get Rudy back onto him once the offense starts in the front court. Of course, it's that same play they run with Jokic and Murray, but this time, Murray decides to split screen with KCP. They lure all the rotations to the ball and get Porter attacking a long closeout, and Rudy doesn't finish the play, allowing Gordon to rise up for the 12-footer. I was curious about Gordon being the primary ball handler in the Nuggets offense, and it turns out this wasn't something they invented in response to the Game 2 full-court pressure. He's always brought the ball up in their offense, but I tracked all the possessions that weren't out-of-bounds plays or fast breaks, the ones where the Nuggets can make a conscious decision who they want to bring the ball up. In Game 2, it went awful in his 10 possessions, as the Nuggets struggled with the pressure and physicality all around, and it was as much a mental breakdown as it was execution of their plays. In Game 3, they were slightly better when Gordon brought it up more, but in comparison to Murray and Jokic, it was still pretty bad, despite allowing a nice pressure release from Murray. I can see why Malone was willing to switch up primary ball handling, since something drastic was needed after Game 2. This roller coaster of a series is making some of his hair fall out for sure. Well, if that's the case, he needs to go to Nutrafol, a drug-free whole-body approach that promotes hair growth from within. We often blame genetics, but there are multiple things at play when it comes to hair thinning. Things like stress, nutrient gaps, and aging can all trigger hair thinning and shedding. Nutrafol's multi-targeted approach promotes hair health through whole body health. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding. Their patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sex life. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering my viewers $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code CoachNick. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and hairstylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair by clicking on the link in the description below. You'll see why in Game 4 they went all in on Gordon as their point guard. He did it more than Jokic or Murray, and the efficiency was great. He can turn these directly into mismatches like they do by forcing Conley onto him with a quick step-up screen. That invites Naz Reid to double, enabling his man to cut right to the hoop for the layup. When they try the same play, Kyle Anderson does a better job to stay with the ball, but he's simply no match for someone this quick and strong on his way to the bucket, with no natural rim protection out there for many. One of the biggest issues is that the Timberwolves had decided to pressure the Nuggets ball handlers early and often in an effort to tire them out, considering Malone is barely playing 8 guys. This is similar to what the Pacers are trying to do to the Knicks, who are basically playing 7 guys. But since the Nuggets have so many different players who bring it up, this strategy isn't working that well. And that brings us back to that defensive screw-up that the Wolves got away with in the fourth quarter. From that moment on, Murray was the guy bringing it up most of the time. And because Gordon had done so much of the heavy lifting, dealing with full court pressure that could no doubt wear a player down and leave them with heavy legs and poor decision-making ability, Murray was fresh enough to initiate the offense and see his team score on 5 of his 7 possessions down the stretch. The pin down from Brown gets Cat several feet behind the play, which is important since it's the Murray-Jokic pick and roll bonanza that just kills teams. The short roll lures Rudy to the midline even though Cat was there, and McDaniels decides to fake the closeout to Brown, daring a non-shooter to hit the shot, which he promptly does. They run the clock down, and Cat is holding Jokic's left arm so Jokic doesn't axe handle to Cat's head. Mike and Nori is upset that Vince McMahon isn't here to see it, but they get down to business. Pick and roll. McDaniels goes under, which triggers the flip of the screen, and they know once they hit the pocket pass, Rudy is all in on the help. We saw the kick to the corner last time, but no need when Jokic is this close to the hoop, floating it in nice and easy. And if you don't think getting Murray off ball more helped him keep his legs, then watch the burst of speed to get into the front court against McDaniels. They run that same screen for Jokic to get his man out of position before they set the ball screen. The switch gave them a huge mismatch down low, and it just so happens to be the MVP of the league down there. The genius of Jokic is that he can stare a hole at KCP who's open on the perimeter, causing Edwards to move in that direction, only to backhand the ball to the wide open Gordon for the dunk. Did Cat have to try and challenge a perceived shot from Jokic? I don't think so, but it starts to put the game out of reach. And that brings me to my viral tweet from last night. Down by only 7 with a minute and a half left after this layup that Jokic won't challenge and risk fouling and stopping the clock. Watch how Gordon allows the ball to roll up the court. This means the defense has all the time in the world to get matched up properly. But watch this. Conley had been picking up Gordon in the backcourt, but Rudy is there waiting for him. He should be guarding Christian Brown in the left corner, but he might see Cat back there on him, and now the confusion begins because no one is guarding the MVP of the league. How could this happen? Where's awful coaching? He wouldn't even notice this. That clown's too busy yelling things like hedge. Edwards realizes Cat screwed this up royally and points to Telltowns, I'll have to guard him. But seriously, how can you screw up basic things multiple times in the fourth quarter of a second round playoff game? Right here, Gobert could have scrammed Ant out of there since Cat was on the left block and could have covered Gordon. That doesn't happen, so Conley doubles, reset, then McDaniels doubles. Alexander Walker is worried that KCP is open and someone needs to rotate up, but Jokic is so much bigger than Edwards, all he has to do is turn over his left shoulder and just float it in from 5 feet away. Can you hear me shaking my head? The Timberwolves not only need a new defensive scheme, they had better come up with it in a hurry. They could let Jokic score and try and shut down everyone else. And they could do this by letting Rudy play him one-on-one since Jokic can literally put Gobert's head under the rim whenever he wants to. Having Cat guard him seemed to be a better alternative, but the Nuggets have been finding ways to exploit this. Gordon isn't a great three-point shooter, but if you let him shoot wide-open standstill jumpers, he's going to hit a few. Doubling Jokic isn't the worst strategy when you have guys struggling from behind the arc like Brown and Reggie Jackson are. So I wouldn't go away from that. But you need to be able to execute the basic fundamentals of defense, like picking up your man and not leaving the MVP of the league unguarded to start a possession. I feel like all the momentum is on Denver's side heading into a home game in Game 5. And if the Nuggets win that one, this series is over.